Joining us right now is Leila Miller. She has a great website. I encourage you to check it out. LeilaMiller.net, LeilaMiller.net. We'll put a link to it in the show notes, but she's also got a great article over at Crisis Magazine, crisismagazine.com. Let's call out dirty old men again. Leila, good morning to you. Thank you for your time today.
Good morning. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
I am old enough to remember a time when, calling out the perverts was like a normal societal thing. The times, they really have changed, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. I would say they flipped on their head. I call it an unholy inversion, where now the people who are protective of children, as far as not allowing them to be sexually exploited or sexually exposed to things, or people who have the instinct to know that, this guy may be walking down the street in a parade with no clothes on, and, again, I want to keep this G-rated, but those people who want to call that out, now we are suddenly the dangerous ones in society. People who are, kind of go along with the traditional decency values that we used to have, moms, grandmas, fathers, and we are the ones who are seen as subversive or dangerous to other people. It's quite the flip, yes.
Despite the fact that we've had now a few decades of scandal-laden sexual perversion within the ranks of the clergy, and movies have been made against this. You see what I'm saying? Like, society railed against us, called us all perverts, and basically condemned all of us for being Catholic. And now we're going to accept this? We're okay with this now? What diabolical nonsense has had to happen in order to make that okay?
Yeah, I call it like a Hydra. The minute because I've heard a lot of people say that at 2002 people thought, a few bad actors, this is terrible, but now we're going to clean up our act, and gosh, all the parents are going to go through safe environment training because that'll take care of the problem. Yeah. And then we kind of said, but the majority of the bishops, they're going to take care of it because this is just, they're not going to put up with this. They're still pretty decent. Then we find out, McCarrick's scandal, which we can't even begin to scratch the surface of what he has done to people and the long-lasting effects of just his heinous crimes. But they throw him under the bus, which, by the way, he still hasn't had any punishment for that other than just going to live in a monastery somewhere. Right. But he was the head. We cut off the Hydra, and then all these other heads spring up in its place, and they're still in power. And probably, I would argue that what people call the Lavender Mafia are more powerful than ever. Practically every one of our cardinals, is one of McCarrick's handpicked men. So you've got all of this going on. We're supposed to now, instead of saying, hey, we call out these, perverts and these bad guys in our ranks, including the laity, now, like you said, we are expected to just shut up about it because these are the welcoming people, the ones who accompany folks with, again, other public sexual issues and things like that. And we're just supposed to go along with it. So what is going on? It's just, have we learned nothing from McCarrick and all the grooming scandals? And apparently not, because we're really not allowed to speak about it. Again, we are the mean, terrible, horrible, nasty ones that are oppressing people.
I mean, there are people lobbying to make it normal and acceptable and okay for adults to sexualize children. But 20 years ago, when these alleged priests were victimizing children, that was so horrible that the whole world needed to burn it all down. And now, fast forward, again, there's just such a diabolical flip in that should astonish us. In your article, you mentioned Uncle Ted McCarrick. You just talked about that a minute ago. Monsignor Jeffrey Burrell. Let's not forget about his hookup app, adventures. Bishop Zecchetta, who was protected by the Vatican for a while. Like, there is this, and there's even more names that on this list that you could have added that you didn't, probably out of prudence. But just this list is shocking, Leila.
Yeah, and these aren't just minor players, out there somewhere in, a tiny little clapboard church in Nowheresville. I mean, these are the people who run the Catholic Church right now. I mean, they are in the highest positions of power. They basically laugh at us, people who are like you and me, who are concerned and protective. I mean, that's a word that we, again, I said in the article that there's no one protecting in the way that a protective man, for example, would protect against perverts and deviants. in the old days. We have to just be quiet. So everybody's been quiet when these folks still, no matter what, it seems to be no matter what their deeds are, no matter how bad their sexual crimes, they are untouchable. They just stay in power, like you say. We see them; they're still around. Some people say, Mahoney in Los Angeles is still running the place. I mean, he's still behind the scenes running things, and he was supposed to be put out to pasture years ago. So all these guys are in firm control, and we just have to wonder: wait, why do we have to be quiet about this again? Not that necessarily we have any power to change things, but we certainly have a voice. And we can speak with our voice, and that, in fact, many saints have said silence is the cause of ruin in this world. We need to speak with 1,000 tongues. So at least put the truth out there.
Do you believe that they sincerely believe that they should embrace these worldly, fleshly, perverted ideas? I mean, they're doing it. Do they do that out of a sense of sincerity? They just mistakenly believe this. They're naive. They're misled or whatever. Or do they have some real diabolical motivation for perpetuating this horribleness upon the rest of the church?
So my theory is that it's kind of like in secular politics. I think that there are a lot of people who just are naively carrying the water, of these new ideas or whatever. But I think that the further up you get, as far as like a lot of these cardinals, if you really ever talk to them or listen to what they're saying or look in their eyes, I mean, I think I've used the word sinister. I mean, there's a sinister quality here. They go after good, faithful Catholics. They don't like reverence. They don't like tradition. They don't like the church. It doesn't appear. They don't like the moral law. And you can't really be in that position for too long and climb those ranks without really being a true believer that that good is good is bad, and that they're going to advance that. Now, to the extent that they are diabolically influenced, I'm sure some of them are. Some of them really appear to be in the throes of the devil. And these are not nice people a lot of times. They're not behind the scenes. They're not nice. Some of them are fine, and maybe they're just stupid and they just don't know any better, and they have inclinations that they just think, it would be really nice if we could all just, love who we want to love, whatever. That they never define love. I don't even want to think about what the definition is. Yeah. But I do think there's a sinister quality to many of these men, and I think that they are, serving a different master. And I'm not going to, pretend that that's not the case, because it's. I am certain that is the case in some of these guys. With Father James Martin, and I've followed him for years. I've watched his social media. I've watched people respond to him in the thousands. Underneath he's got millions of followers, I'm sure, that admire him. But if you watch what they say, and if you watch what he says, they never. Say, "Oh, Father, thank you. I have changed. I have repented of my sin. Right. I am a new man." Those of us who've had conversions like that, we say it all the time. We're always like, "Thank you, Jesus, for changing my life. I got out of mortal sin." And but not James Martin and his followers. And he always toes this line. I call him slithery, because he's said a few things that are really, really slithery, and they really belie what's going on underneath.
Cardinal Fernandez is not only not being replaced or asked to resign, and there's been a global call for it, but nonetheless, he's got an additional appointment. He's now also being appointed to the dicastery for Christian unity. So seems like he's moving on up. In fact, Leila, many people believe Cardinal Fernandez could be a potential Papablia. Whatever that is. Like, he could be the next pope. Could you imagine, Leila, that Cardinal Fernandez would be a pope next? That would that would definitely bring schism, I would have to argue. What do you think?
I can't think of much more that is the most horrifying thought.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Then every conspiracy theory, would come true. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that this pervert, really, he's a porn monger, kind of a disgusting, we're talking minors. This was a discussion with a minor he was having as a priest. I don't even want to think about, how that came about and all this. It just blasphemous porn. I can't imagine that he would ascend to the throne of Peter. That would be, in my opinion, it means that the level of corruption is just staggering, because we're already reeling from all these other appointments, these other friends of Francis, and these are not good guys. These are people with incredible history of sexual deviancy, sexual crimes, cover-ups. I mean, they should be out in some monastery in sackcloth and ashes for the rest of their lives, and they're in the public eye. It's almost like we're being gaslit. You know, we're being
right.
You know, we're being played here, and we're being trolled. We keep saying, "Are we being trolled?" You know, and you know, possibly so. So it's pretty disturbing that now he's going to get another appointment, because it just shows that you know, our concerns don't matter, and we don't have any power in the sense of, you know, this type of power where we can say, as a group, stop, you know, appointing these people. That's obviously not going to happen. Yeah. You know, so we have other types of power, but that's not something we can control, unfortunately. But we can see it, and we can see it clearly and not be fooled.
So what do we do about all of this? What can we do as lay people? I mean, I'm just a knuckle dragger with an opinion. That's about the extent of my authority. So what ought we to be doing, Leila Miller?
Yeah, and I'm the same. I'm a housewife in Phoenix. You know, I have an opinion. Well, we have the benefit of knowing our faith and knowing what came before. We know 20 centuries of Catholic patrimony. First of all, we have to learn it. We have to teach our children in our own sphere of influence, our own children, our own families, our own friends. We have to teach them. I always have a rule of thumb, which is what would the saints have said on this particular topic? Not just what would the saints have said, because people twist that to be like, well, the saints said love. You know, we have to love. Yeah. It's like, okay, no. What would the saints say, and what did they say on these and any particular topic? You have to be very specific. And then you realize, okay, well, that's pretty consistent, you know, 20 centuries, 2,000 years. We're going to go with whatever the saints said, because they knew and they lived the faith better than you know, we're here still trying to figure it all out. But we know, because we have that patrimony, we know what they said. We know what the church has taught. We know what the moral law is. Nothing changes. That doesn't change. So if we find something that contradicts that, we can be fairly sure that that's the problem. That's the aberration, not what the saints have said, not what the church has taught for 20 centuries. So the rule of thumb is just look back in the past and see if if this is an inversion or if it's compatible with it. And then we have to become saints ourselves, because the only way we can be powerful within the church, and with, you know, God is on our side if we are speaking the truth, is to be prayerful, is to, you know, become virtuous and saintly and have a very firm prayer life, because a saint can change a community, a saint can change a nation. So we just need a few saints, and that would change a lot of things for a lot of people.
How much time should we be spending sort of focused on these really scandalous stories, this really negative stuff? How do we find that balance, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Right, and self-awareness is really important here in St. Catherine of Siena, in her dialogue. God the Father says that a lot, you know, self-knowledge. So you really have to know how it's affecting you. You know, if it gets to me, I back off for a little while. I'm one of these people who I don't mind. It's not shaking my faith at all to go into these matters. I'm more excited than ever to be a Catholic. You know, like, oh no, they're not going to take my mother's house. You know, they're not going to take my father's house. So it hasn't shaken my faith. However, I know many people who have told me I'm so shaken, and then I just want to say, well, just back off. Don't even wade into that. Go read the saints. Go read their writings. Go read scripture. Dive into everything that came before, and your mind will start to be cleansed of all this garbage that is coming out of the Vatican and the different chanceries now. Even go there. You know yourself. So if you can't handle it, it's not that you're putting your head in the sand. You already know, right? You already know it's bad. So now go and be that prayerful person that just dives into all of the faith, the wonderful parts of our faith, to make you grow deeper in that faith and become a saint. We need the saints. We need the prayer warriors. And then those of us who can handle all these disgusting details without losing our faith, we can go forward and keep speaking. But yeah, do not lose your faith over this. Absolutely not. Know your limits with the intake.
Yeah.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.